All right, welcome everybody to the SBSA March meeting. How's everybody doing? Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, I like to always start all of our meetings just to see if there are any visitors here. Anybody? Visitors? We got several of you. That's nice. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what you'd like to fly and where you're from.
What I like to fly?
Yeah. Paraglider.
I'm Nick. I've met most people here. I'm from Santa Cruz. I like flying paragliders.
Yeah. Nice. How long you in town for?
Probably for a week.
Awesome. Yeah. Welcome. Cool.
Yeah, John from Missoula, Montana, paraglider, repeat offender.
Nice. Yeah. All right.
I'll be here till the end of the month.
Welcome. Awesome.
Repeat offender. We're from San Antonio, Texas. We do a lot of filming paragliders.
Nice.
And a little bit of pointing mountain ankle. And I'm here until Saturday.
All right. Welcome. All right.
I'm Luke Fanning from Juneau, Alaska. So came down in November, came down again, and so I'm on day 2. So
All right.
I'm going to spend some time and get away out of here.
All right.
With Chris
Welcome.
and Eagle
Awesome.
Bird.
Cool. We love having guests in town, so thank you guys for coming to the meeting too.
Hi, I'm Bill from Seattle. I'm a P4, and no, really, I'm a H2 with Willie over here. Look at this. Willie said to come over and just see what it's like, see what crazy hang gliders are right over here.
Awesome.
Hey, Bill.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Everybody here.
I'm new.
Hey, thank you.
Mike, I started training the week before you guys took off. I've been on the hill almost every single day since. And I'm from Santa Clarita, but I'm living in my RV. So since I started, I've been living at Earl Warren Campground and haven't left. So I have a tricky job, sell a house, a Ben and wife. This is gonna be it. This is my family right
Right on. Awesome. Anybody else? Visiting pilots, new people.
I'm Margo. I'm new. Which I also do have good paragliding seat, but that's good to be here.
Cool. Anybody else? Alright, well, does anybody have any, I know there's definitely some epic flights that happen. Does anybody, before we get to really crazy epic flights, anybody have any epic flights that they want to share?
I crossed 2 goals off of my personal goal list. I flew to Bates on Friday and then flew to the Training Hill on Saturday.
Nice. Awesome.
Always said I'd like to do this for like 10 years. So.
Hey, you gotta wipe them off somehow, right? Anybody else? Yeah.
First time to Omar?
Nice.
Yeah.
Anything unusual or cool about your flights, especially flying with things like that?
Somebody and say,
Yeah, it was got a little bit.
Kept going.
Just kept going.
Awesome.
somebody.
Yeah.
Here, he's good. Yeah, he's good.
All right. I know some people flew a short distance. Thank you. For a little bit. Would anybody like to share who was on that flight? A little bit about.
Yeah, Brian wants to talk about
Yeah,
it.
there are 3 of them here.
There are 3 of them here, so I know somebody's going to want to say something.
That was fun.
Real quick.
That might spark some.
Brian, remember Thank you.
Let there be light.
Oh, no, I know, I was like super impressed.
So the people
Right after getting out of school.
So last Thursday was a super fun day. Who else flew that day? Pretty good, huh? It was pretty cold. Definitely start with that. So I got a call from Chris Garcia like maybe 5 days before that day, and he said, "Hey, Thursday looks pretty good."
I think we were still in Colombia.
Okay, we're still in Colombia. And Garcia said, "Oh, I think Thursday looks pretty good." So I said, "Okay."
And to preface this a little bit, these guys were in Colombia for the previous 3 weeks, and the weather here had been complete piss for like 3 weeks straight. So these guys nailed it. They were down in Colombia scoring, and then came back like 2 days before this flight.
Yeah, it seemed to work out. It's been pretty good since then. Almost every day has been fun. So more or less, the weather that I did for this day was Garcia said it was going to be good. I pulled up Windy and just checked the winds aloft, and I looked at the SKUT on Windy for Santa Barbara, Fillmore, and Silmar, and I didn't see anything that said don't go flying. That's pretty much all that I was looking for.
You can show the SQTs on there if you pull it out.
Wait, once Garcia figures this weird thing out. So one thing that I saw on the SQTs was that Santa Barbara had a slight inversion, more of just a slowdown, right around 2200 to 2700. So I just didn't want to get low in Santa Barbara. A lot of times the crux is getting past Castle, and so I just saw that, hey, if we can stay high, let's do that. Luckily, when we took off, and we'll see on the Avery, I think we touched, almost 7K right there off of La Cumbra right away.
These guys touched 7K. I touched about 5.5. I launched a little later. Just catch up with the first flight.
Yeah, so it worked pretty well to stay high. Jeff Longcore launched at like 8:30 in the morning and showed that it was already working. We'll get the Avery at some point, no, not a big deal. So more or less, we got high and stayed high. As we were getting up to White Ledge, I checked the wind talkers for Fillmore and Oxnard. It was still blowing offshore. So there's no point for us to rush as fast as we were going. I figured we'd start slowing down right then. It's really hard to get to the top of the climb and not want to just go. So by looking what, 30K, 40K ahead of us, and saying, oh, we need to slow down, otherwise we're going to get there, it's going to be blowing offshore. So just by doing a little bit of weather in the air, it was that's what kind of set our pace for the day. When we got to
So I guess stop there and oftentimes I feel like we don't learn that when we first learn to fly about checking instruments. We look at instruments for the data that's here now. But it's a really good habit to look at active wind talkers, to like be able to have a stylus on your phone if it's cold, listen to the gloves, to be able to see what's happening, like in the future, as you approach places. I think it's really important.
my nose is pretty long, so if I'm really cold, I just use my nose.
Future casting.
So,
You're using your nose.
oh yeah, I'll pick up my phone and do this, yeah.
It doesn't get too snotty.
It can, it gets better.
Swipe just fine.
I just rub it on my face. So more or less, we were able to team fly most of the way, and in Ojai, Chris decided to take more of a front line. Casitas, the lake there, was showing a fair amount of wind, and so he didn't want to get in there. I think that was actually a pretty good idea. Normally when we cross the 33, I think it's a good idea to, and people do this differently and every day is different, so it's not one size fits all. But I normally like to try and find a climb at bump 3, and then can come around and kind of skip the nut house where often the wind is a little bit stronger, and go straight to spine 2.
Well, I think, and that's where like the big deviation was for me, and it wasn't necessarily that I had a different thought of how to get around 33 there. As we were coming on glide, and you can kind of see it in the track, essentially I looked over at Lake Casitas and saw wind on the water there, and I had let my vision essentially kind of narrow in on the fact that there was wind, and I really lost sight of the fact that I was flying with those guys and I was a little bit ahead of them. And at that point, if I really wanted to keep team flying with them, which I mean, I was able to keep moving along just fine, but you know, sticking together is always the right call. I should have been looking over my shoulder. Instead, I got distracted by the wind and the fact, okay, I have to do this, I have to go out and around, and I really didn't leave myself with the option to be like, oh, and you could see that as I start to veer away from everybody, Brian and Logan get a climb just a little ways behind me, and because I was so tunneled in on this here, I didn't even see that climb happening, and at that point, by the time I looked over my shoulder, it was too late. I was basically on my own flight going in through Ojai.
And if we can get this area, it'd be kind of cool to sort of maybe pause and sort of see what we were all thinking kind of in the moment, because there's times where like, you know, like I'd be interested to hear kind of what you guys, we haven't really even talked about it since the flight. We're talking about you know, one of the bigger flights that's happened out of the area about a week ago. And at that moment, so for me, I kind of knew that the potential for the day for it to be big was there. So I kind of had the thinking to stay not slow, but to stay like almost cautious, you know, to not make any sort of risky moves. And for me, coming into Ojai, I've gotten pummeled there more than once making that glide. You know, oftentimes people say like if you're over White Ledge, you have the glide. To the next transition for people who aren't from here is a spine that Tom's called the nut house. You oftentimes have that glide, but I've gotten on the backside of those spines and found a lot of sink and ended up dirting there. So my philosophy there was to stick with someone, you know, who I was in proximity to there, but also to really stay patient and try to find lift, you know, like some sort of lifty line to get across there, not just to gun it, you know, as opposed to just being like, okay, the day's on, like Logan was saying, it's easy to stick go. And this whole day, in a lot of ways, was kind of about not patience necessarily, but like knowing when to be patient or knowing when to like slow. Slow is fast sometimes with big flights, I've noticed.
It was a good day, for sure. Coming into the end of Ojai there, checked the wind talkers again, and it was now showing onshore in Oxnard. It was still showing offshore at Piru. So it was still not a time to rush it. You can see that I chose to go up Chief's Peak just to see what kind of altitude we could get. I think it's really cool if we can fly over Hines Peak in Bear Haven. So that was kind of what I was thinking. The air there was not super pleasant. It was pretty bumpy at times. So we ended up going to over to the Topas and down to Puckers, got high, and just right to Santa Paula Ridge, which is where we got the highest of the day actually, which is pretty nice.
How high?
It was in the 7s, I'm sure. So from there, there's a lot of ways to go through Fillmore, and we've talked about that before, but to me, I like to normally go to the Fillmore F and then ride that spine over. Oftentimes you're finding good climbs on that. So the higher you get at Santa Paula Peak, the better, and then just go straight over that Fillmore F, and that's definitely the way to go. It's worked a number of times.
Yeah, right off launch, right? So also that day, I drove up with Andrew, and I think we got to launch at maybe 9:30, which I think is another key point for days like this. I feel like oftentimes I see, you know, people kind of putting the van time and sort of getting into a little bit of like a sort of a guessing game almost, not a guessing game, but just sort of like what meets kind of everyone's, you know, needs for that day as a community. This day I wanted to get up there as fast as I can, you know, so to give myself as much time. And so I was up there at 9:30, and these guys were already up there. I think 9:15, you know, laid out and ready to go. So they actually got a jump on the day here, which I was super impressed by. And
What time did you guys launch?
I think 9:15ish. We had the plan was to meet at 8. It ended up being more like 8:15 or so, or a little 8:20. And we just cruised up there. We kept it pretty relaxed on launch too. It was nice to not really feel that rush, but knowing that we wanted to be there early.
Just a quick note, I was privileged enough to be on launch watching these guys climb out like right on the house thermal. And Chris Garcia was just guiding in Colombia on the train go. And he hopped on his Meru for this flight, I think, and just being back. And he like took off, and I don't know if he was on speed or not, but he hit the house thermal, and then like boosted and like spun right into it and just pinged out. It was one of the coolest things. It was bad, dude. Yeah.
It was good to be home.
It was awesome, and Brian Howell was with us as well, and Brian was also a part of the Columbia crew, so these guys were like fired up and ready to go, which I was appreciative of. And you can see it's funny, I like, you know, I saw these guys go, and I was like, oh shit, time to actually get off the ground.
Is his strap on there with you guys?
It's not. It been, oh, okay, right.
Is the goal of the day to do like farthest distance from launch? Because sometimes on these bigger days, folks will go to VOR to extend just the mileage of the day. Is there any reason why you guys decided to just immediately take off and go east?
I think part of it was, I mean, we were feeling a good amount of west-northwest wind all the way through altitude, pretty much immediately. And I think that, you know, if that's what you're already feeling, I think that was part of a big decision for me of like, yeah, let's just start going downwind.
Yeah, for
If
me,
you want to page over, you can look at the wind talker for Cougar Peak. You can leave that page open and go back to the weather over there. See on so it says observations?
Yeah.
Click on like the Cougar Peak. And it'll tell you what the wind is doing at the different times of the day.
So you're 9:07 in the morning, 4 to 6 southwest, 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 south. Yeah.
But earlier was it northwest? Or?
I personally,
Northeast.
I saw the laps
Just wants to be
staying good,
Yeah.
all the way down range. I
Yeah.
saw like
Yeah.
all the way down range, and to me that was just like, I was hoping this is it. I saw that potential to go that far, and I didn't so just squander any opportunities on the course line. And also, I mean, I wasn't 100% sure. Seeing these guys like, go to 7 off of launch is a pretty rare thing, and so it's kind of like, all right, let's go.
9:50 in the morning.
Yeah, exactly, not early. Yeah, with that crew too. I mean, it was like that crew, that forecast, that early. Those are special ingredients that don't come here often.
So when Garcia, when you saw the forecast and everything on Thursday, and then you decided that this is a good day, what were the kind of main elements for you to recognize this is a good day for a big flight?
When I initially looked at it, it didn't look like it was going to be too windy. I think that as the forecast progressed into that day, there ended up being more wind, and I think that there was a couple things that I missed as well in terms of the amount of wind. But to me, it just initially looked like light winds and a good lapse rate. I didn't really see any clouds in the forecast, even though we ended up getting a couple that we were ahead of that we formed over by White Ledge. But yeah, it just looked like good lapse rate and some wind pushing you downwind, and that was kind of the main thing. And looking at the lapse rate, not just only here in Santa Barbara, but in Ojai and over by Fillmore as well, and then also looking at kind of how things were setting up with in terms of what Logan was talking about with the offshore wind kind of being there in the morning was pretty nice. Sometimes that offshore wind can be pretty significant, and sometimes it's not there at all, which can make getting established on the terrain over by the Santa Susanas or really anywhere else, or making that crossing in Fillmore can make it quite a bit more difficult. So kind of having the perfect balance of a little bit of offshore wind there in the morning was really nice to set things up so that we were able to get over there with plenty of time, coupled with an early lapse rate. And there was an inversion, or a little kink in it, I should say, that I saw around, I think, 22 or 2300, something like that. And which I was pretty puckered going into Ojai, knowing that it was still, that was forecasted in Ojai too, and I think I got down to 23 or something like that after I crossed the 33. So I was definitely really like, shit, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to get back up, but it was strong enough that I was able to kind of push through.
Can we look at those QTs real quick?
Yeah.
So
An simplified
bottom left there.
explanation for that day might include the fact that it was one of the three coldest days of the season.
Yeah, as the pinky, as I'm feeling my pinky is still gonna come back.
What was the low temp like up at Lacumba weather station the night before? Out of curiosity, did you see or?
The weather station can get below freezing because it's got wall warts inside of its little sensor thing that keeps it a little bit below freezing, but it was one of the coldest days of the year for sure.
It said 36.
What was the winds last day?
27 top lift.
Just real briefly on the QT here, so if you guys wanna pull up this flight, it's under currently dynamic activities. But so we've got Santa Barbara, Ojai, Fillmore, Sylmar, and Glendora, and the different times of day. They all look pretty similar, and so we're down in this, this is 6,000 feet down here, this goes up to 51,000 feet, so, half an atmosphere is at 500 millibars. So we're basically operating in this range down here, and so these lines right here, that's the dry adiabatic lapse rate. You can see that this lapse rate right here almost parallels the DALR up to about whatever, 6,000 or 7,000 feet or something. So, and if you look through all those, and the wind's over here on the right, so this is showing the wind here is out of the west, a little bit northwest up higher, but we're down at our altitudes, those winds are all like low single digits.
I saw the right colors on XC5 all the way down there.
Light green, baby! Light green!
I heard you guys talking about how you were waiting because the offshore winds were blowing, but yet you wanted to make that transition. You're kind of waiting for the right moment to make that transition from the Texas across the valley, so you can make that connection. So you wanted a little bit of offshore.
Yeah, so the idea with the offshore wind is it's the dry air coming from the desert. As opposed to if it's onshore really early, you get the moisture already, and that can kind of shut down that valley. A lot of times our flights end there because we're stuck with that marine air that comes in, it creates its own inversion. So by having offshore in the morning, it just pushes it all out, gives us more time.
Look at the Pyru winds up there, we'll see what time to switch to Pyru. Over on the left, just click on Pyru. Right, that's right next to Santa Barbara. So you can see over there, in the morning, cease, and then finally at about 1 o'clock it switches to southwest from the east. So it's offshore all the way up to like 12:30, 1 o'clock.
Let's check the
Yeah, Avery, go.
Avery,
Still
go.
Or-
How's thermal? Keep going.
That was hitting my brain.
I drove down there, they went really far.
Can we check this
Drive down to
QT right
LA
now?
and see how far they go. That was pretty far, you know?
What's the
fingers
one
are
doing
cold.
right there? Okay, let it play, let it
Fingers
What
are
elevation you
cold.
guys at? I can't see on the.
Six.
Okay.
They were super.
My catheter's frozen.
Not at those altitudes.
So BK, right when you launched, were you like busting ass to try to catch up with them? Was that the goal?
Yeah, well, so here's the thing about this is kind of more of a comp tactic, but I saw them going, and I actually, like being behind, you have the privilege of seeing what works and what doesn't work, and so I kind of just watched them to see what lines were working, and when, they stopped a couple times, and I was allowed to keep going, and I was allowed to catch.
They did 2 360s over the past 4 miles.
Why did they start playing smart?
Why does it look so easy?
Yeah.
I found that this was a pretty low stress day.
Yeah,
to be
it's pretty
honest.
nice.
Yeah.
The air felt really nice.
Line is crazy.
It's getting late.
So Sarah, was your flight up to that point pretty similar?
Yeah, I got big climb off of Lacumba at 7, another climb off of Montecito at 7. And then I got the clouds though that they missed. I got the cloud over noon, which was really cool.
Nice.
It was really pleasant, very, 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 very cold. The coldest I've ever experienced here for sure. Probably actually anywhere. Like I don't fly in cold places often, and it was, I couldn't even get a snack in because it was so cold. Yeah. The hand.
Did you have your windshield on?
Is that the climb that you didn't see them catch?
Yeah, exactly. You can see on the track, go back just a little bit here, where I start to veer a little bit more out front. And I even called it out on the radio because I was flying with Brian Holly, who's the closest one next to me. And here I'm still in like a pretty good position. You know, I'm right next to Logan. I got Brian there below me. And as I said, I just kind of tunnel visioned on my next move and just lost that right there, kept going. And I think, it wasn't that one. Because here I'm even higher than those guys. But then I was far enough away that when they found this right here, there was no way in hell I was going to get to that climb. I was basically committed at that point. And then continued to got loaded under high 26.
At that point, I thought Garcia was done. I didn't see him until he was fucking way higher than way out of touch at like Santa Paula. I heard his name again, and I was like, what the?
I just kept going downwind, man.
So follow Garcia next time.
I don't know about that.
Are you guys talking on the radio much?
Not much need. I mean, I was giving weather updates, but we're right next to each other. You know, all the information we need is just based on, we're going this way or that way.
I think there's, Logan gave me a pretty good piece of advice the other day, and it relates a lot to this flight. And he said a lot of times that when I'm flying, I can go for broke sometimes, right? I'll go all in. And to me, I'm not, if I land, I land. I've gotten a lot better about kind of taking that stuff in stride as the years have gone on for myself. But that panned out pretty well. And so there, I just took everybody's money in the game. But sooner or later, you make those moves where you don't leave yourself with much option. Whereas, if you're thinking at it as it in the game of chess, you're thinking moves ahead and you're trying to give yourself as much of a chance for success as possible. And you'll see later on in the flight as we start going off into Fillmore, I'm just trying to force the climb or the crossing to get onto the Santa Susanas. And thankfully, I just keep finding climbs that are bitching when I get low. But I think in the future, sticking with people, continuing the team flying aspect of the day, waiting when I get to a point where I can, and also just leaving myself as much options as possible is something I'll continue to work on.
So that's Santa Paula up there.
Yeah.
And you actually, Tracy, you kind of at the corner there in front of Topa Topa.
Yeah, I was.
Logan Bryan, you went around the front of Topa Topa.
You didn't even go to Santa Paula Peak, you just kind of angled on out.
Yeah, I just started going out. I was there early enough. I felt that I was like, why not? I'll try this. Start crossing early. I felt I was there early enough to maybe make it. And I'd known based on the forecast I wanted to get established on the other side of the valley at some point. And I crossed the river a few times, just ping-ponging around, trying to figure out how to get over there.
And this is kind of epic actually, because at this point, like, now Logan and I had information about what was happening, so again, like, that was another aspect of, having people involved at this point.
Did you guys have eyes on Garcia while you were at the Topas, or did you get visual back on him later on?
Yeah, we saw. I was watching him the whole time.
Okay.
These guys were on radio. My radio was like, I had my Udi on the. There's a lot of things that were wrong with my equipment that day, but I had my Udi on the wrong side of my harness, and so it was fucking with my video. And so I ended up turning it way down, and so I wasn't in on the chatter. But the first time that I caught eyes on Garcia again was here, making this crossing in Santa Paula.
Got it.
Okay, You didn't like the crossing. That was an early
Well, I
place
hit.
to start crossing. It seemed
I was
like
doing.
anyway.
I was cruising along pretty well, and then my ground speed hit 19 km an hour, and I promptly turned around.
Okay.
Of south wind, I kept running into south
So
headwind.
you tried to cross before Fillmore?
Yeah, like right
Yeah,
over there. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, kind of like.
So there's a road that goes through there, and there's a spot called Round Mountain. There's like 6 of them, but that's another Round Mountain, and that's not a bad place to cross if you're going to Simi Valley.
Where you are right now?
Where he
Where
crossed.
he
where he was
Just
trying to cross.
just to the ocean side of Fillmore is yeah, because sometimes the conversion sets up there. So if you're trying to go Lady Face or something, that'd be a good line.
The valley's a lot wider than.
The valley's a lot wider, yeah. So less wind but higher pressure. So probably.
What time in the day is this?
It's like around there, just under there.
When you said Ladyface, you mean Malibu?
Correct.
Yeah. Maybe we're heading to Bardsdale.
I think we were in Ojai by like 11 and like coming into Fillmore at like 12.
Yeah.
So tell us the time.
Local time.
So it's 12:15.
Nice.
At Fillmore at 12:15. That's so rad.
It's all there.
What's your elevation there? Oh, then you
4.3.
turn. What is it?
4-3.
Yeah.
Nice, Chris. That's cool that you were able to get back there.
You look
Maybe
really,
good decision.
it looks really green. Were you feeling sick at that point?
That's not more yet.
So we saw Chris getting that climb, and I came on the radio and just said, "Hey man, top that out, come join us."
Where's Brian Howell at this point?
He is just behind us. He's back in this zone. He fell behind in Ojai a little bit.
But then he caught us just after the crossing.
And this is only about halfway to where they finally landed, though. It was also really nice flying by myself after having spent a month doing nothing flying with other people. So I was happy just bobbing right down the middle of the valley. It was awesome.
You're literally in the middle of the valley,
Yeah.
there, huh?
Yeah.
Maybe you're catching
I go back to terrain here.
Any aircraft?
Fly
Oh yeah,
the
there's some aircraft.
First
Some aircraft on the right. And so here, yeah, you want to.
Well, I think the aircraft conversation is a really interesting one, and I will be flying with an airband from now on when going past Fillmore, for sure.
You guys were getting from Sao Paulo, they were going
From everywhere.
Yeah, it was the most air traffic I've seen on any flight since today. I've done.
I was like, I almost chose to land. I was really close.
I
If
assume
it wasn't for the fucking glory of this flight.
I assume they were below you.
When I left to cross the 5, I stayed underneath where Southwest was crossing the Van Nuys. So I like stayed lower than that, and these guys climbed up above that, so we kind of sandwiched the airliners there.
So I actually got on the radio and we had a retreat driver, and I got on the radio with our retreat driver and asked him to call the Van Nuys Tower and just told Van Nuys that we're coming through.
And Blake called it for you guys.
Yeah.
Here, Logan and Brian are making their move just straight across the valley, connecting onto the Santa Susana.
Where's that?
Just before the city of Piru. It's kind of where the constriction after Fillmore opens up. So I normally like to try and cross valleys where they're opening or closing. You can find kind of like a damming effect as the air gets kind of pillowed up, and then as it expands out the other side, it does a similar thing.
Did you feel this was a critical part of the flight? Like, Brian, when you came in, you only had about 100 feet of clearance over the ridge.
Yeah, well, so Chris was saying like it was feeling south when he made the crossing, and so I was kind of taking that into consideration. Logan probably had maybe 150, 200 feet on me, and he made the transition across, and I saw him. I thought he was pushing to the other side of those hills to sort of pick up that south.
You got a little better glide, came in several hundred feet higher than you.
So I was kind of trying to see if I could get over to the south side of the Santa Susana. So I kind of pushed in, and then when we got there, we sort of realized that it was kind of converging a little bit there, so it doesn't really matter. But it took a little bit to get up there. It's not obvious, you know. There's a lot of like rolling green hills with not a lot of obvious triggers. The only obvious trigger was actually what got us out of there and established again.
Brian, had you flown that side of the valley before?
No.
That was your first time making that crossing?
Yeah.
Chris, you too?
Yeah, it's my first time past Fillmore.
And
Yeah,
Brian
cool.
Howell's still with you guys in there too?
He's with us, like same thermal,
Oh, wow.
100 feet difference. He ends up falling off the next, I think right around here, he falls off to the Santa Clarita side.
How high are you guys now?
5'7", yeah. Trying to get higher
Have any of you guys gone pee yet?
many times.
And it
This
worked
guy,
out?
not once.
Were you starting to feel some north at this point during the crossing?
Yeah. So the main thing I noticed on the forecasting was that there was going to be north wind or east wind as we came into Silmar. So I wanted to get high there because the ridge there, first of all, avoiding the compression of that crossing of the 5, but also just to be able to choose which side you end up on based on what the wind's doing. Whiteman Airport, which is just down the way, was showing that the wind was coming in, and so opted for that side, but kind of expected it to possibly be lee.
Coming in from the west or southwest?
It was coming in from the southwest of Whiteman.
The I-5 is a major air traffic corridor, as you figured out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a
A lot of
Pilatus.
planes.
Yeah.
I mean, we got
That's
the
the
last
5
time
you
before we
guys-
crossed over.
yeah.
We were.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a Pilatus not Pilatus. It was I think it was a Learjet actually that came in 1,000 feet below us under my harness.
And nobody was flying in Silmar?
No.
Why?
It was pretty windy.
I landed, it was like,
Also,
I landed in the pass, it was like 13, 17 miles an hour. Pretty windy.
yeah, so in this zone, I trying to hold this ridge just because you can see the drift is kind of pushing us out. But once you get, so Silmar's after this transition. So we're coming into Silmar now, and that's this launch here.
Is that the Kegel? Is that what it's
That's
called?
the same.
Okay.
So at this point, I just want to point out that one of the more inspiring talks that I've ever gone to was when I first started. I think it was a year into flying, and we were at Rusty Pizza, watching Neil. So Neil had this beautiful flight to the Rose Bowl that he called. It was declared goal on launch. It was one of the coolest things that I'd ever seen at that point in paragliding. I may still see it. And so this was a really cool part of the flight where the Rose Bowl was actually like in sight here.
The new generation.
Like, fuck, there it is.
Imagine landing it.
This is a zone I've flown quite a bit, coming up to Big Tahunga and whatnot, and so what's that?
In helicopter or on PG?
Both, but mostly PGs, yeah. And to me, I just kind of started pushing the pace a little bit, and
Brian catches up.
yeah. So I saw Brian get reestablished on Big T, and
Yeah, we were together pretty much the whole flight, and then I stopped on a ridge, he kept going, he pushed out front and just got this boomer of a climb,
Yeah.
7 meter second climb, and I just watched him get.
And Hal lands in here somewhere, right? In the bench?
Yep, yeah. So this is one of the cruxes of the flight, getting established on Big T. The landing zones out in front are not great. They're shit. Yeah.
I landed at the Angela's National Golf Club and thought the bar was going to be open, but it was actually closed. He was pretty bummed. Quickly went and got some beer for him. Drink, hey man, green grass and beer. I can pass that up.
Yeah, so this is where I saw Brian was reestablished and everything, so we decided to team back up and finish it, which is pretty cool.
It's like southwest.
Logan, compared to last time you were at this point, where were you in the day? Did you think that you had it, or like?
I didn't think I had it, nor was I ever that the intention. Every time I've passed 100 miles, I look down and say, well, that was 100 miles. Every time that I've flown any distance, it's always a surprise.
BK, was your goal to land at the Birkenstock factory?
Is that in the
Big goal.
Now it is. Yeah, and at this point too of the flight, like the thermal's starting to get, quite nice, quite smooth. There's a lot of west wind.
What time is it?
Yeah, how many hours you in now?
That's what Mount Wilson. It was like just over 7.
Yeah, 6 something hours.
Are you guys talking?
At this point, yeah, we were
Yelling at each other.
Yeah, we were so close. We were just talking to each other.
What were you yelling at each other?
No, it was cool. He when we hit the 100 mile mark, he helped me out because my Udi had died. Again, like one of the things.
You weren't even going.
My Udi was dead. My phone was like, and so he called out that we hit 100 miles. It was my first time hitting 100 miles, so it was pretty special. And to do it here was just such a cherry on top.
Yeah.
No pun intended.
So no peas? Did you have any snacks?
Dude, I had no water, no food.
Regular Boy Scouts.
Baby in his arms. He's got baby
I
twins.
just recently became a father. I had twins back in December. It was like really last second. I think it was like morning of. I made the decision. I had nothing together. Not, don't follow my lead. With that kind of stuff.
He busts his heart.
Yeah,
You see that?
I was flying like a man that didn't fly a lot.
Who flew the furthest?
Alright.
But who flew the furthest? I know you're sharing it, but
who do you think?
That's what I thought.
Such a gentleman.
You're the deuce.
How many of us get in the hoedown? Yeah.
That's it?
Well,
come on,
it was
people.
more than that.
It's over. No. We got the hoedown ended this last month.
What?
And we've got some prizes. Thanks to Cracker. Let us know how we did.
Yes. Thank you, thank you. So the hoedown, yes, it ended in March. So it's all done. This is the 5th year that we've had it. It's been pretty fun. The hoedown, by definition, is like a dance or a gathering or something like that. So it's kind of a community building thing we've done. It's been pretty fun just to have tasks and help each other out and watch people get better and watch the good guys see how fast they can scoot around our range. So yeah, 5 years in. And tonight the prizes, I'm going to try to rip through them because there are 3 sets because of course we have the February task we have to do. We have the 2 season tasks and then we have the overall winners, right? So I'm going to try to go through it quick. We always have some kind of silly little prizes to give away, to do. I think there was about 40 people that participated this year.
Yeah.
We usually, that's pretty good. We usually grow the tasks as the season goes. Put them in different parts of the range, so participation usually starts falling off as the tasks get a little longer, but in general the tasks are all really short. So it's a lot of fun. If we do it again, I encourage you to participate. And good time. Alright, so for February's task, the task was with Derek. It's kind of Montecito Peak area to Noon Peak, I believe. Willie with his hang glider got 22 minutes 46 seconds. Come on out, Willie! Oh, and we got all these killer mugs from Distillery Products, which is Austin's family business. So the PG ABC class. So we had 3 classes that we did all this in, right? We had a hang gliding class, we had a paragliding class for ABC gliders, and then we had the PG Open, right? So any PG. So the ABC guys could win the Open also. So that was all the gliders above C. That included everybody. So anyways, the ABC class. So in 3rd place we had we had Dave Patterson. Where's Dave at?
These are the Island Brewery Bears. These are very good mug. There you go. Thank you, Dave came on the scene, storming this year, doing all kinds of tasks. Good job, Dave. Second place, Chris Lormer, one of the Chris's. My friend, nicely done. Lormer might come up here a lot louder. He's smoking beans. All right, and first place for the ABC class was Andrew Byron. Yeah, Byron. Did you drop your beer? PG Open class, third place, Chris Lormer. And you get a bird. Second place for PG Open, Andrew Byron. And first place for PG Open, Mr. Carter Crow. He might come up here a few times too. Alright, so that was February's task. February's done. Good job, everybody. We had two all-season tasks that you could do all season. We always do. The last few years we've done a really short one, and we've done our longest task. So you have all season to get those, which is kind of fun. So anybody new coming in throughout the season, if they want a goal, they could go for these shorter tasks. Which this year's short task was actually harder than a few of the other ones. So the shorter task was called Around the Taint. And let's see.
What's a taint?
It's a spot between your.
It taints your ass and it taints your balls.
Oh, thank you.
There you go. Nice stuff. So for the hang gliders, we had two entries this time. We had John Greenall, second place, and Willie, first place. Come on. Yeah.
Okay.
Hold on, John, stay here for a second. I want to digress for a second. Here, Willie. I forgot about this. Wait, John, hold on. So part of this whole community thing, right, is participating in the community. And anybody who's ever landed at, what do we say? We're gonna say landed at East Beach, landed at the T, landed at St. Mary's, landed at Parma, taken off from Skyport Eliminator, taken off from the Wilcox, taken off from the Training Hill, taken off from Waltz Point. Now we have this whole fight with base. This guy has been doing it. You owe this guy a beer right here. He's been doing it since the 80s, taking care of all of our sites, keeping them open. It's a very controversial business game. We've got to butt heads with people, keep our sites open, keep things flying. And in the beginning of our contest, we had a controversial image in the hoedown. And I had a one-shirt print off of it. It's the only one in existence. I wanted to give it to John Granoff for the SB Hoedown. This was the original. It's the only one. It's the only one. All right.
Hey, where do I get your shirt?
I get all excited when I see Mr. Granoff. Oh yeah, that was the hang glider, guys. All right. Let's go. The paragliding A, B, and C for the Around the Tank. Third place, Mr. Masashi, who's not here. He moved away. Oh, you know what? Let me let community on this. Because the only thing that takes more abuse around here than Dr. Masashi is the Eagle Band. So I would like to contribute part of the SB Hoedown. I'm putting a new set of tires on her next week. So I'm taking her next week, wherever the van is, putting the tires on her. Alright, and Andrew Byron in second place. Come on up. Chris Lormer, first place. Come on up, man. And a For every Chris here, Warner, you can show. Okay, and then the PG Open. Third place, Logan Walters. Where you at, dog? Oh, and thank you, Logan. Logan was on the task committee. Logan, Andrew Byron, Dylan, Laughlin. So thank you guys all for making this task committee. And Mr. Masasi, Dr. Masasi was on that too. Where'd I go? Oh yeah. Second place for the PG Open. I don't know how this happened. Is this right? Around the tank. Second place, Carter Crow.
You're like, should I?
Yeah. Maybe it was only second place. That's kind of weird. Is it kind of weird? He was hungry.
You got it wrong.
Wait,
First place for around the tape, fastest time is 17 minutes and 17 seconds, Mr. Chris Lorimer.
New Derek.
Just
Give
one more
It
buzz.
was on the 100-mile sled day.
Threw it all away.
I did the tank.
Yeah, but
You're the shortest task on the
who's the real winner? I mean, we all know flying's fun and all, but let's get real.
So our season task was, we called it 69 kilometers. Went up and down a range, ended very high up in the Toba Bluffs. There were only 3 people total out of everybody that completed it. So Mr. Eric Stratton, Mr. Neil Michaelis, and Mr. Carter Crow.
Yeah.
Carter Crow did it 2 hours and 39 minutes. The other 2 guys did a rate of 3.5 hours. Come on up.
Yeah.
I don't think Eric's here. No, Eric?
There's a shitload of
By the way, these bad boys will buy you a bunch of burgers. I'm just saying. A bunch of burgers. Bring all your friends. Bring Eric. All right, so that's the season tasks. Those are done. Good job, everybody. There were and one. Oh no. So
Doesn't say how many, but it's a bunch.
So now we have the season overall tasks. So this is the accumulation of all your points for the 5. What was it? We have 5 months. I think we have 5 months, right? 5 months plus 2 season tasks. So 7 tasks total. Added up all the points, and you get the winners. So we'll start with the hang gliders. For third place, Mr. John Graynall snuck it in there. He wasn't even on there like 5 days ago. I saw him. Started flying in time.
What I did, I put all my fish bowl flying for the last 5 months into the contest and got.
It's not against the rules. It's not against the rules. Oh, what do I got for you?
It's not against the rules.
You're going against that too. Oh, I got a hammer for you too. Hold on. We got the real hoedown shirts for the overall winners.
Oh, man.
You know what I mean? What you need, a meter? These were the non-so-controversial shirts. Yeah. Good job. There we go. Jeff Galvin, Jeff's not here, right? He got like 5 kids. He ain't gonna be here. Jeff Galvin got second place in the hang gliders. Willie, first place, hang gliders. And usually Willie wins first in every task.
Not this year, not this year.
There's some soft guys out there giving you the run for your money, but that's all right. Good job. First place.
Keeping it flat.
All right, let's do the PGA B and C. For third place, Sarah Lockwood. You like the shirt, sir?
Collect the whole
All right. Nice job. Good job. All right. Second place, Andrew Byron. The ABC class, we're all pretty close in points, so nice to
Got an extra small for him?
Woo!
Show off those muscles, baby.
Oh, you can be a small one. All right, so that's the. Oh, wait. First place. First place in the ABC, Mr. Chris Lorimer.
He's got one from Monday through Friday.
Number 5.
5.
He's got 5 mugs.
Good job. Nicely done. First place for the whole season. So far. Nicely done. That's impressive.
That's a lot of work. There's a lot of people out there battling.
5 mugs.
All right, so PG Open. Don't go too far. Don't go too far. PG Open, third place, Chris Lormer.
Chris, cut the sleeves off of this one.
Make it a crop top.
Yeah, right? That's what I'm talking about.
You get some fringe on it? Alright, that was third place. Oh, I want to go back to the ABC real quick. So
Chris Lormer.
ABC, remember this is a community thing. So not only are the people who are going the fastest just as important as these people who are doing tasks for the first time. So this season, I was super fired up at the beginning of the season. We have Mr. Ajay here. Fourth place or something like that overall. Anyway, in the beginning of the season, like in the summer, we had this talk, and you're like, man, it's like I think I'm just gonna fly the ridges. Like I'm terrified every time I fly, and then we set these tasks, right? And then all of a sudden I'm seeing Ajay's tracker, and I see him landing out like by Robbins and by there, like he's trying to get to the VOR, and then he gets to the VOR. And then boom, he's lighting up every task. And then boom, he's going to Mexico. And boom, he went to Colombia, went 100, how many, whatever they call it. 100 overall, and this year from not even third one hardly in the beginning of the contest, he got like 4th place overall. So nicely done. Change your mind. What happened?
A few things in rapid succession. I impulse bought a Rush 5. I talked to Carter at Sage, and then
Yeah, Carter.
I don't know. I had my first ever flight to Panero with Cole and Chris Golden.
Yeah.
And, after that, it was something like something just flipped in my head, and I'd just been grinding away with no results for years, and overnight it was like, God, why do I suck? And he was like, have some free skills.
No, wait, I'll step in here. I told Ajay, I said, you got all the skills, you just gotta be cocky. I told him, be cocky, know where you're going, know you're gonna get up. And there we go. All hail, baby.
Second place in the PG Open, Mr. Neil McKenna. We used to see you last year every time. His other son.
I can't do that. I didn't even try to do that. After my first task in September, October, it's like, no, just forget it.
Yeah,
Just going for
he
second.
does do the test a lot.
He's too fast.
You know what?
It's Michaelis.
Hey, hold on, Neil, real quick. You did the 69 one, I forgot. Hey, I wanted the Toba beer for you too. Carter, that was for the 69. Neil, you ready? That's for the 69. Alright, so first place, the PG Open, which was also first place at Open, beat all the hang dangler and everything. First place, Mr. Carter Crow. I don't think anybody does the task more than this guy anyways. He just does them and does them and does them and does them every flight. Just for fun. Hold on, we have this.
Before he gives you this, just like huge thanks to Chris, Andrew.
Beer cape's gonna go right away. Hold on. We got a little homemade trophy. I got all kinds of old stuff, so.
Old stuff.
I should pull my mouse the back.
Old stuff.
2018.
competitor. Does the Rose Bowl count?
May or may not have probably gonna die from
We might, yeah, probably not helpful.
Just so you guys know, next month we have our Big Sur trip. So I don't know, I know a lot of you have been on our Big Sur trips, but April 13th through 17th, those who haven't gone on our Big Sur trips, we always have a killer time at Plasket Creek, which is about a 3-hour drive from here. On Big Sur, it's good for P2s, H2s, on up. It's just an awesome place to fly. So April 13 through 17, put that in your calendars. We have 2 group sites that we usually rent, and we'll send an email out about it. And we'll let you guys know what's going on with that as well. So put that in your calendars, and thank you for the awards. Oh, no, awesome. Thank
We're just trying to put my kids to bed.
This is his creation years ago, and it's brought together.
That would be definitely something you want to focus in on. It's coming up soon too.
Last but not least, who's done Sage and Happy Canyon?
Andrew has
it, but he has something he wanted to show.
Initial high
And then open and ABC.
Overall,
He's been 100 years in a row.
ABC first. Season task first.
Thanks, congratulations.
Over ABC first.
Oh yeah, video. Picking the right one.
Yeah, do a quick 5-minute video.
They're different ways? Do I have one? Oh, Byron video? Fuck yeah.
Look at that. Fuck yeah. Look at that. That's nice. I told Holly, it's like, I spent all afternoon telling these different track lines.
Essentially do a little series of other sites around Santa Barbara that work throughout the year. So one of the magic things about this place is that we don't just have our mountains and our ridges that work really well in the winter, but we also have sites within a 30 to 60 minute drive from here that work all year round, both for evening soaring, hiking flies, also huge cross countries. So we're going to do a little series over the next few months as our winter season dies down, and Andrew's going to kick us off with Sage and Happy Canyon.
Love you, Andrew.
Lights.
Flower Peak.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Sage and Happy Canyon, we'll show just a quick 5-minute video that will kind of demonstrate both the beauties of flying Sage.
Yeah, so that's my mom's birthday.
All I really want to say is when, like, Kraka has a really good video on Sage, so go check that out. It's going to explain it way better than I could. And Happy Canyon is a great place to dial in your skills for ground handling and launching. And I like Happy Canyon is like the little mini ramps and skate park, and Sage is the super pipe where you can just kind of go big. A lot of us, you'll see in some of these videos, like when we were first learning, we'd go out there and just practice. And I really encourage you with summer around the corner, like go out there, do the hike. It's an adventure. Your skills will thank you for it later. With that said, some of us have really been pushing the potential of these sites. Carter, Dylan, like huge shout out to you guys. Like go to so in addition to Kraka's YouTube on Sage, like go to Flaptism's YouTube, that's Dylan's YouTube, and you can just look at Sage runs from like 360 camera or like helmet cam of like doing acro, or just like go to that YouTube and study, and it's pretty awesome. Before you go there and do your thing, you should really know your limits, have a plan, mitigate the risks, and we say like, oh, accept the consequences, but be prepared to accept the consequences. Like check your reserves, bring a tree saw, have radios, have a first aid kit. Don't go out there and practice stalls if you don't have a plan to get your stuff out of a tree or triage an injury, right? Like, we need to protect these sites. But with all that said, no, that was to have fun out there. So I'm gonna try to get this video going and then check out Kraka's YouTube and Flatfiz's YouTube. And this is just a little hype video of me and my friends flying stage. And then it's gonna cut to an old video of us flying stage back in the day, and I hope you guys enjoy. And so the audio
3 years ago.
the second half is from the September, or the it's from the 2018 SBSA.
Woo!
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Andrew did it once.
That's like, cool. That was our first.
Music.
I'm pushing play at the same time on my phone, so you have some audio. Can you guys see that? Yeah.
Is that thing still for sale? It's a tear range. It's not that good.
Oh yeah.
Beautiful.
Oh.
From launching Naps capsules.
No hiking for you.
Quite literally OTB. Yeah, that's
It's just barely launched.
When Chris Heckman used to fly.
That's fine.
One thing I wanted to add was before you go to these sites this summer, like summer is usually the season these sites are most reliable. You can go all year. But when you go, try to go with someone who's been before, or a local, because they'll give you a heads up on like, hey, this is how you forecast this site. Hey, look out for dangers here. So I encourage you to get out there this summer. Like these dudes sent 100 miles and they built a foundation on skills that they built over a lot of different places, including Happy Canyon and Sage. Yeah.
All right, and that's it. Thank you, Eagle, for letting us use the warehouse, the workshop, and we'll see you guys in the mountains.